Hello, everyone. You may know my name, Cooper Overstrom, or my favorite type of music, country. And you may even know that I have an obsession with peanut butter and Nutella sandwiches. But the question I am asking is, do you truly know who I am? You may have a general idea of me from what you have heard or seen, but you likely haven't heard it from me. People say that they do not judge a book by its cover. However, the truth is, everyone does. It's called a first impression. To me, a first impression is an assumption made based upon what someone sees or hears about someone else. Now, making these assumptions is not necessarily a bad thing. The part that makes it a problem is when someone is labeled based upon the impression he or she has made. For example, as most of you know, I came to Appleby in grade 10, or upper 2. And this was a hard thing to do, because I was leaving my friends that I've had for 11 years and coming to a school where I only knew a few people. So on that first day, when I walked off that bus, the thought that I could not get out of my head was, Cooper, don't be stupid. But what those words truly meant was, Cooper, make a good first impression. The reason for that is I didn't want to say or do the wrong thing at the wrong time, because as a typical teenager, I was focused on fitting in. But looking back at that thought, I realized it was wrong. What it should have been saying was, Cooper, be yourself. This is because at Appleby, there is so much opportunity to do what you want to do, be who you want to be. So why not take advantage of this amazing opportunity you've been given? This starts with keeping an open mind and understanding that there are more to people than their first impressions. I can say that I've experienced this firsthand. People have made assumptions as to what my personality may be. Some of you may consider me a joker, lighthearted, and maybe even a bit of a goofball. Now, I'm not denying any of these traits about me because, well, they're true. However, that is not all I am. There is more to me beneath the surface. I consider myself a sensitive person, and that is something that people may not know about me because socially, I like to display my more joking character. Laughing is something that I love to do, especially with others. Making them laugh brings joy to my day. Just ask my quad mates, Jake, Pete, and Phil, how much I love to laugh. But laughing is obviously not my only hobby. I'm sensitive when people come to me with a problem, no matter how big or how small. I love to help. In fact, it actually makes me happy to know that someone trusts me enough to confide in me. This is because I know what it is like to be upset, angry, and sad, as I have experienced these emotions before. And what always helps me through them is leaning on my friends and family for support. Another impression I may give off based on my personality is that I'm not interested in academics. However, this is actually not true. Academics is something I take very seriously in my life. I often even refer to myself as a nerd. This is due to my interest in school. Actually, who am I kidding? I enjoy going to school. School interests me and challenges me. Let me tell you a short story. A few of you may have seen what my face looked like last week. And if you didn't, I was basically bruised and cut on my nose and eye. Now, at first glance, it might have looked like I got into a fight, but that would be the assumption made based upon a first impression. It was actually a calculus-related incident. I was up late studying for a test, and Mr. Page came in and said it was lights out. So naturally, I went to bed, meaning when Mr. Page left, I went back to my desk to study some more. However, I heard him walking down the hallway and immediately turned off my light and tried to jump into my bed. But that didn't go as expected. I I ended up slamming my face against the windowsill, hence my face getting all scratched up. And I still ended up getting run listed. This is another instance where the truth requires digging a little deeper, not just at face value, pun intended. A writer, Tina Ng, says, "It takes a moment to judge someone, but a lifetime to understand them." Everyone makes first impressions about people. That's a given. It's human. But taking the time to get to know someone is much more rewarding. In the words of Troy Bolton, "My parents' friends are always saying, 'Your son's the basketball guy. You must be so proud.' Sometimes I don't want to be the basketball guy. I just want to be a guy, you know?" At first glance, Troy is just known for basketball. But in reality, he's an artist as well. Now, many of you may not know this about me, but I watch a lot of teen drama TV shows. And most of them try to expand on "don't judge a book by its cover." Let's start with one of my favorites, One Tree Hill. The main character, Nathan Scott, is seen as a classic jock who doesn't care about anything. However, his future love interest, Haley, keeps an open mind about him, and she realizes that he's actually one of the most caring people in Tree Hill. Next, probably the greatest example of misjudgment is in Friday Night Lights. The first impression of Tim Riggins is that he is self-centered. However, once you look beneath the surface, he's actually one of the most caring and loyal people you've ever seen. Some may even call him the best character in the show. It's pretty easy to reference a fictional character to use as examples for my speech. But the fact is, we are real. We have our good days, and we have bad days. We might not always be our best self. But the most important thing is to keep it real. Apologize when you have to. Forgive when you need to, and to not be afraid to be who you want to be. Even though all the examples I listed before have different stories, they all revolve around the same idea. They were misjudged based upon their first impression. However, some of these characteristics are a part of their personality, but it is only a piece of who they are. In my opinion, there are two key requirements to getting to know someone: open-mindedness and understanding. You need to go into a conversation with someone you don't know well with the actual courtesy to hear what they have to say. If you go into the conversation and have already made up your opinion on who they are, then you will never truly get to know someone. Understanding is also key. You need to understand that everyone has their bad days and their good ones, their easy times and their hard times. Try to look at problems in other people's shoes. Others' actions can be reflected by other variables that might limit your ability to find out what is beneath the surface of someone. The message I want you to take from my speech is to keep an open mind about people. Ultimately, you don't truly know someone based upon a rumor, an assumption, or even a first meeting. Keeping an open mind is something you should incorporate into your everyday life, whether it be at school, at a future job, or whenever you meet someone. This is important because you could be missing out on someone that could be extremely influential in your life, simply because they might made a bad first impression on you. What if that person you thought was mean, weird, or annoying could have been your best friend? You don't want to miss out on any future relationships with people. When I first came to Appleby, I'll be honest, it was frightening. I was leaving the school that contained most of my friends and familiar faces from middle school to come to a place where where only a few people knew who I was. And what I knew about Appleby all came from my sister, who, when stressed, makes sure everyone knows it. Part of me believes I didn't come to Appleby in grade 9 because it seemed so busy, so stressful, and so crazy. However, I believe another part of me didn't want to come because I was scared. Scared to leave my friends. Scared to start fresh. And, well, scared to be new. I talked about my feelings when I walked off the bus, but I didn't talk about what actually happened on that first day. It was extremely nerve-wracking. I wasn't wearing a tie, yet everyone else was, so it made me feel even more like an outsider. Then, the tie ceremony in the chapel. Don't even get me started on how I was feeling. When someone told me that I needed to walk up by myself, accept my tie, and take a picture, I instantly started sweating. But after I got my tie, the more complicated part started. All I could think was, how was I going to tie this tie? But this was not something to worry about, I realized, as I asked a student for help, and they tied it for me. To this day, I don't know how to tie a tie. I just leave them tied and place it around my collar. But that moment, when I first put on the double blue tie, I felt like a true Appleby student, like I'd already passed the first test. Then came another stressful part, physics class. All the way in the arena. Who knew that? I walked in and was looking for a place to sit. I chose to sit beside a guy that was funny, talkative, friendly, smart, and a terrible golfer. It was Pete McDonald, aka Petey Mac. Let me just say, that moment started a long-lasting friendship. But I didn't know that was going to happen at the time, because I was worried about the first impression I was giving off. So when writing my speech, I asked Pete what his first impressions of me was. And he said, "I thought you were a sociable, fun guy that would find friends quickly." Even though I was worried about my first impression, I ended up giving the first impression I wanted to, just by being myself. Next, let's talk about the dining hall incident of 2015. I was looking for a place to sit and ended up at a table and asked if I could sit down. I got the response, "Yeah, if you hide your bag." When I first heard this, I was very confused, until I realized nobody around me had their bags. That was when the rule about no bags in the dining hall became very clear to me. I was hoping that wouldn't affect the good first impression I was trying to give off, but it didn't, because the person that told me to hide my bag later became one of my good friends, Carter. Now here comes a story where I made an assumption about someone and was completely wrong. When I first met him, I thought to myself, I don't think this guy and I will get along, and we will probably not be friends. He was in my math class, and we rarely talked, until one day, we did. Boy, was that assumption completely wrong. I mean 100% wrong. And from that moment on, he was one of my best friends, and is currently my roommate, Jake Kahn. Even though I thought we wouldn't get along at first, I decided to keep an open mind, and I'm thankful I did, because otherwise I would have missed out on a friendship that is very important to me. To close, I want to revisit my introduction, because in English class, isn't it a thing to restate your thesis in your conclusion? What I'm trying to tell you guys is everyone makes assumptions about people when they first meet, whether it be a bad one or a good one. And this isn't wrong. What makes it wrong is when people are not given a second chance to show you who they truly are, because they may actually become your future best friend. Now, I'm not saying you need to be friends with everyone you meet, because that would be an unreasonable suggestion. However, you can be friendly with everyone you meet, because in all honesty, who does that hurt? Thank you.